My husband is 7 years older than me. When I was with him, my family was against it. One reason was that he was much older than me, and the second was that he loved to look good. He is a man but has more clothes than I do as a woman. However, because he was very kind to me at that time and I was inexperienced, I didn't listen to my parents. I guessed that age wasn't a problem, and dressing up more handsomely wasn't a bad thing. Thus, I disregarded my parents' objections and married him stubbornly. In the second year of our marriage, we had a child. Both he and I were ordinary office workers with not very high monthly salaries. But he loved to buy clothes before going out. He would definitely make himself look sleek. I didn't bother with him anymore. Let him buy if he wanted to. It's just that our lives were a bit tight. Later, I summed up several of his shortcomings. He was unmotivated and very lazy. I had to wash his clothes from the inside out. He was very particular about cleanliness. A shirt was only worn for 1 day. Then he took it off and threw it aside. I had to wash them for him. I thought, forget it. Who made me choose him? One day a couple of years ago, he said he was late for dinner with friends. I went to sleep first. In the middle of the night, he came home drunk. I was angry when I saw him like that and didn't care about him. He didn't make a sound, stripped himself naked, went to bed and fell asleep. The next morning, I got up at about 6 o'clock. It's my habit to get up at that time. I cooked the meal first and then simply tidied up the house. I looked at the clothes he had taken off, which were all filled with the stench of alcohol. I just wanted to help him wash them. It turned out that I found a used condom in his underwear. I was trembling at that time and kicked him with my feet, trying to wake him up and ask what was going on, but he just wouldn't wake up. Angry, I went to the kitchen and got half a basin of cold water and poured it all over his head. I didn't care about the bedding. I really wanted to kill him. He woke up and scolded me for being crazy, asking what was going on. I slapped him twice and said, "What's wrong? Do you still have the face to ask me? What did you do last night? Don't you know?" He shouted, "What did I do? Didn't I just drink a few more glasses?" I held his underwear in front of him and said, "You drink with this?" He looked down and his face turned pale. I couldn't help but cry and said, "You don't need to explain anything. Let's get a divorce right now." He told me there was no such thing. Not what I thought. That condom was last night when his friends were fooling around and stuffed it into his underwear. After hearing his words, I slapped him twice more. I said, "Who do you think you're fooling?" He immediately grabbed his phone and called one of his friends. Once the call was connected, he said, "You messed with me. Now my wife saw the condom. If I didn't let you stuff it, you were being stupid. Now she's going to divorce me. What do you say?" Later, he handed me the phone. His friend explained to me that he had drunk too much last night. It happened that a friend bought a new condom and everyone was fooling around. My husband also told me that if he did that, could he be so stupid and make it so messy? But I still didn't believe it. So I thought of going to Changchun to find a place where I could test the DNA and test the condom. Wasn't that the bottom line? During those days, I locked the condom. I called and asked about it. It was said that it could be tested, but it cost nearly 1,000,000 yuan. I also understood Where would I get all this money? So the idea of going to Changchun was dispelled. Later, as soon as I saw him, I found out I was depressed. It was as if there was a shadow that made me unable to breathe. Later, because of this incident, every time he wanted to have sex, I felt disgusted. There was always a shadow lingering in my heart. Gradually, we rarely shared the same room. I lived a miserable few months. Then, I said no, I had to do this test. I was going to live my whole life. If you don't want anything else, you want to live a clean life, I said to him. If you betrayed me, why should I live like this with you, a morally corrupt person? He followed me to Changchun. After the result arrived in Changchun, they said they couldn't do it anymore. We had to go home again, although this test wasn't done. But he could come with me and not panic, and his face wasn't red. I thought I might have misunderstood him. Let's forget it. After this incident, I started to get annoyed that he loved to look good. I didn't really take it seriously before. I thought that if he dressed decently, I would also have face outside. Later, I found out that the husband of a good friend of mine wore just a few sets of clothes all year round. People focused on their careers who cared about being handsome or not. As a result, people now have cars, houses, and go abroad for travel once or twice a year. Look at my husband again. He couldn't wait to change 860 sets every day and was still with some women. So far, he had accomplished nothing. This was what I found out after I got married. If I had found out before I got married, I wouldn't have married someone like that. If only I had listened to my parents. It's too late to regret. Now, in my last year, he drank too much before coming home. Because of the last time, I took advantage of him falling asleep to peek at his phone. There was nothing in it. I was looking when suddenly a text message came. It said, "Rest early. Miss you. See you tomorrow. Don't forget to delete after reading." It was an unfamiliar number. This time I didn't feel good either, but I wasn't that excited. I was afraid I would misunderstand him again. I just wrote down the number and checked among his good friends. Was there this number? The result was no, their company had a phone directory. It was everyone's phone number, all printed in a small book. I just checked the numbers one by one and it turned out to be a real match for me. As soon as I looked at the name, I knew it was a woman. Once I remembered it, I deleted the text message as if nothing had happened. I cooked normally the next day and went to work. I told my best friend about it. She suggested that I look up his phone bill, but I knew that even if I kill him, he wouldn't tell me the password. In a fit of rage, I went to their unit. At that time, my husband was out on business. I went straight to the woman. The two of them had offices just across from each other. When I entered the room and in front of his colleagues, I scolded her. I said, "You stinking third party, do you think my husband is yours?" There was also a face texting. Actually, after I finished scolding her, I thought about it and divorced my husband. I didn't want to live in suspicion and depression every day. She didn't dare to say anything, opened the door and went out. When I came home in the evening, my husband had a fight with me, saying that I misunderstood people and called me a shrew. I confronted him about the text message. He said, "What text message? It was all your illusion." I thought that was ridiculous. He even said I was hallucinating. While we were fighting, there was a knock on the door. As soon as the door opened, she suddenly came in. It was the woman I scolded in the morning. She rushed straight into my house without even changing her shoes. When she saw something, she fell and scolded, saying that I had wronged her and ruined her innocence. She said it had nothing to do with my husband. There was no such text message at all. She came to my house like crazy. I wondered if there was a third party. How dare she come to the house like this? If she wanted to make trouble, I would go to her house to make trouble. At that time, I really thought I was mistaken. Was it a pure hallucination? Did I get the wrong phone number? Later, my husband told her he was sorry, put her out and said he would send her back. I dared to hold the phone book tightly. I checked again with the number I wrote down that day. There was nothing wrong at all. Let her make such a fuss and make me confused. What the hell was going on? After my husband came back, he righteously warned me that if I continued to make trouble like this, he would divorce me. I just didn't think he was having an affair outside. It was as if I was the one outside. We had many fights those days because of this. Then the child got sick. We were busy taking care of the child. It was all about the child. On the surface, this matter was over. In fact, when I thought about it, I felt very aggrieved and uncomfortable. The reason why I didn't mention it again was that I was scared that I might have copied the wrong phone number from his phone that day. As for whether it was a misunderstanding or reality, I didn't know. I was a little dazed by all this. My memory didn't seem to be very good. It was the beginning of the month. In the blink of an eye, one of my husband's best friends got divorced. I asked him why they divorced. My husband said they were not in harmony because we often ate together. A couple of times I also went, so he got to know his friend's wife. I was at the supermarket that day and suddenly met his friend's wife. I also kindly tried to persuade them to remarry. I didn't expect that she said, "Sister-in-law, what a bad thing about them. I won't say anything else. Let's talk about condoms. Could it be a joke? And you went to their unit to find that woman. Could you go to her if there wasn't that? I won't say more. Sister-in-law, think for yourself." After saying that, she left. I grabbed her and asked her to speak clearly. She said, "Isn't that clear? Do you really not understand, or are you pretending to be confused?" With that, she left. When I heard what she said, I thought, yes, isn't this a clear deal? A couple of big guys, what could they do with a condom? She was okay to give my husband. Why was there that text message? Forget it. I don't want to think about it that much. This time, I went home and filed for divorce. My husband didn't agree and said, "Are you stupid? She's sowing discord. See how we are doing. She's divorced. You're not unaware. She didn't have a good impression of me before. Said that I always asked her husband to drink. Now it's time to get revenge on me. Use your brain. Don't believe everything." I thought it was true that she kind of looked down on my husband. These days, my head is very messy. I can't stand thinking about these things. I don't know who's right and who's wrong. I've figured it out. All this must be true. I must divorce him. I don't want to spend a day with him, but I can't judge now. I still think about those things all day long. What can I do? If I continue like this, I feel like I am going to collapse.